Welcome to a quick introduction into Spicy SE and how to get started. We will be following the V model, going from the stakeholder analysis to deriving a context architecture from it. As a next step, we want to collect our system requirements and start linking them. And then with our system, we want to derive it further into our component architecture. And once we've covered the left side of the V, we want to also see what's on the right side, namely the testing. And finally, we want to take a look into collaborative reviews with our team. So let's get started. When we start building a product in Spicy, when we start modeling a product in Spicy, you will see that the starting point is our main system boundary, our system of interest. So the first question we ask ourselves is, who is actually interested in our product? Who are our stakeholders? Some obvious ones come to mind, like our customer, our user, but then there's some more hidden ones, like maybe our manufacturing, service personnel, testing, recycling, regulations, and so on. So what we do in Spicy, we build tabs here to organize our requirements by stakeholders. Now you can place the more tabs here with the Add Tab button, and then fill the requirements up by either adding them manually or importing from files that you have. You may also add risks at this very early stage, and then rank the risks by severity and probability. Once we've collected all our stakeholders, and of course we are aware that this is a process that doesn't really stop. We might think of more during our development. But once we're satisfied with the first iteration of this, we go into modeling our context diagram. Now this is a very important step, and we tend to see that it's actually one of the hardest. Why? Because probably you and your team, you have so much knowledge and so much information in your head about the product you're building that abstracting it to just a black box may be hard at first. But trust me, it's very valuable to do so. So what do we do here? We can also enlarge this, so we can zoom in a bit to show what we're doing. Now, from our stakeholder requirements that we derived, we should get some external elements that our system has some form of interaction with. Our system produces outputs, that's what we're building it for, and for that it also requires some inputs. It might also produce things that we don't really want, but we can't help it, like noise and vibrations and such things. As well, maybe the environment interacts with it in beneficial, like sunlight here, and non-beneficial ways, maybe temperatures, rain, and other natural phenomena that are working into the product we're developing. Now let me make this a bit smaller again. We also define our interfaces here. Now if I select an interface, then I can describe the flows via that interface. Bear in mind, I can put multiple flows on one represented arrow, or I can put multiple arrows between the system boundary. Here, the guidance should be, how does my team need to understand it, right? We want to find a way that's elegant for everyone in our team to understand. So again here, once I'm satisfied with the elements that I've placed in the context and my description of the interfaces, and again, of course, this is an iterative process that goes on and on, we can move to describing our system requirements. Like we've seen before with our interfaces, if we select our system boundary, which I have already done, we get information that is relevant to the system boundary. In this view, its requirements. So how do we go and why do we go from stakeholder requirements to system requirements? Well, first and foremost, stakeholders can be plentiful and they might not take care of how we want our requirements formulated. Maybe they're not atomic, maybe they are not testable, Maybe they are not according to the requirements, guideline, and specification that we give ourselves. Maybe we have multiple requirements in multiple stakeholder sources that all funnel down to a single system requirement. So in this stage, we want to really go from this very broad funnel of stakeholder requirements to atomic, well-described system requirements that we can develop and test against. Again, if you already have something cooking somewhere else, then we can import from the usual file types, or we add items, headings, information via the Add Item button. Now, as you see here, we can also again use tabs if we need, or we use chapters to organize our requirements. Now, once this is done, of course, we want to make sure that we satisfy all of our stakeholder requirements, so we need to link them. We want to make sure that we have a system requirement taking care of every single stakeholder requirement. So how do I do this? In Spicy, it's very easy. I use the drag and drop icon, and then I can just link by dropping it onto one of these places that you can see that Spicy lights up for me, so I have some orientation. Once I've done that, I can then select a requirement and I can look at its linkage view to see, also I can enlarge it, to also see where it comes from, so which stakeholder or upper level requirements it satisfies, and how it maybe breaks down into subcomponent, subsystem, component, whatever you want to call it, level. It also shows me if my requirement is mitigating a certain risk, or maybe here you see an orange line indicating that this requirement has detected an impact, meaning that something that was linked that's above it on a higher level has changed, and we need to take care of that change. Now again, once we're satisfied with our system requirements and our linkage, then we move on to deriving our architecture further. If we have a look in our context diagram, we can see that we defined inputs and outputs to our main system boundary. We also see that the stakeholders, so the leading, the upper level requirements are on the top, and the system requirements themselves are on the bottom. Now it's time to go from this black box view, we can see it's only just represented by one box, into the inside the white box view of our product. Now, in order to do that, I will go level down, meaning I'm going from black box to white box. I will basically open up this box that we have selected and see what is inside. Now, accordingly, as we're going down into the levels of detail of our product, we will see our system requirements moving up. So let me click the button. Now, we see that our system requirements that were just on the bottom right are now on the top right. We also see that we have opened up our main system boundary, and the interfaces that we had before, let me enlarge this for you. The interfaces that we saw before, they are now also represented as green bubbles for inputs and red bubbles for outputs. It's very important to note that Spicy maintains these interfaces correct throughout the levels, putting less of a headache on your team to maintain them manually. You will also find that we cannot place any new bubbles manually. Why is that? Because we want to make sure that when a component responsible requires something from outside our system boundary, that we also model it via the main system boundary, right? We want to prevent our team from creating friction or even creating chaos in the model. We use our system boundaries and interfaces to model further. Now, if I select a certain system boundary, I will see its requirements and I can continue linking just as we saw before. Now, Spicy does not put any constraints on you on how many levels you can build. Build as many as you need to adequately describe your product. Look in the level view and you see this bomb-like structure of the model you built about your product. Now we've covered the left side of the V. We also want to test, to verify and validate. So let's move on to the next step and do some testing. For testing, we navigate to the Design and VNV tab. If we select a system boundary down here in the architecture, we use the architecture for navigation. So we can also go level down here and select one of the components. For now, let's look at the main system boundary. We will see its requirements pop up here in the upper left-hand corner, and the test cases that we use to verify and validate our requirements will be up here on the right. I can then link again with the same principle using the linkage button, but now drawing it instead from up to down across the V to connect tests to requirements, or better yet, connect the requirements to the tests that verify or validate them. If I want to know how far I am, every system boundary has a little progress panel that shows me exactly my review states, uplinks, downlinks, the linkage to VNV, and even my test results. And it also shows us who's responsible and who's on the review team, which brings us to the next and last topic, which is doing reviews. To do reviews, we navigate to the Review tab. We again use the architecture for navigation to select the system boundary that we want to do reviews on. Now, we have a new requirement here that's still in draft state. In order to open it up for review, I will change the state to in review. We can now see two things. Number one, the change of status was recorded, and also I can now agree or reject this requirement. You can also take a look, especially if you're not so experienced with reviewing requirements, at a checklist just to make sure you know what you're actually looking for. This checklist can be fully customized, of course. You can then also chat with your team members about what you think of this requirement. For instance, here, I think we can not achieve the level of power. And so for me, I would then reject this requirement. You can now see it registered the status change to rejected. If I click on the requirement, I can see exactly who is of what opinion and also who still needs to review and do some work. Now again, we can look in the progress panel to see how far along our reviews are and how much work we still need to do. If you are a part of the review team and someone places a requirement from draft state into review state, you will also get a notification on this bell icon right here. If you're maybe involved in multiple products and you just want to get an overview of what you have to do, how many reviews are open, select the one person icon here to go to the My Spicy area, where it will show you all of the reviews and also impacts that you need to take care of. And with that, we're through. Enjoy modeling in Spicy SE, and if there are any questions, feel free to contact us via our website.